In this video, I will show you how to create, model, and place the interior walls of the Jefferson Beach bungalow. Where we left off in the last videos, we created the exterior walls, the garage common walls, and the exterior walls. The next step will be to create the interior walls. So I will go back to the floor plan. If you recall in the last video also, I showed you how to put a underlay, so we had some reference points to build or place the walls on the exterior perimeter of the building. Now that we've done this, we really have no need to have this underlay. So to turn that off, I'm going to come back over here to my properties window, and I will scroll down to underlay, and I will simply select none, hit apply, and you'll notice my bearing wall, my piers, and all that will go away just as soon as the computer finishes processing. Okay, so in the next step, what we're going to do here is we are going to create give it just 1 second here. There we go. So now you see that we no longer have that underlay. So in this next part, what we're going to do is we're going to create the interior walls. Now I've brought up a model, a framing model that I've created in SketchUp to illustrate somewhat what we're going to be doing here. The two main things I want to show you really quickly is we have this step in the wall. And what I wanted to show you here is this wall that separates the main great room area from the bedroom is at the 9'1" 1/8" elevation. It steps down right on the face of the wall that creates part of this corridor going back to the main entryway. And then you'll notice that everything on this side of the house is at that lower elevation of 8'1" 1/8 inch. The other thing I wanted to show you really quickly here is in this design, we actually have a beam that spans the full 24 feet of the structure. And these walls underneath basically are for the purpose of infilling. So in this case right here, I'm going to just take a really quick measurement. We've got 7 foot 11 3/4 inches. So we'll actually make the wall heights there also shorter. Okay, so looking at our plan, give me 1 second here. I thought I had this on the correct screen. There we go. Okay, so here is the floor plan that we are looking at here. So just really quickly here, once again, as we look through this, going along this wall right here, that is where our step is going to take place. So let me just really quickly here. Nothing seems to be going quick right now as the computer's a little bit on the slower side. I wanted just to put a quick markup in here. All right, I might have to forego that for right now. So again, just looking along this point right here, excuse me, along this point right here, that is where our step is going to be occurring. So let's go ahead and start placing some walls. So again, here's our floor plan. I'm working off the main level floor plan. Make sure that you're on this on this view to make this happen. So what I'd like to do here is let's start by creating these 8-foot 1 1/8 inch walls, which again are occurring at this location right here. And now thought I was going to get a little bit of help. It looks like maybe I did. Okay, so this right there is where that step is going to happen at 8 foot. And then once again, if I were to draw a line right here, let's just keep drawing a couple of lines right here at this point. And then we come back over there. So basically, there's a transition where this is an 8-foot wall, and then we bump up to the 9-foot here, and then we got a step right there. So those are the 3 locations where our steps are occurring, which once again, we were looking at this point, and then this point right here. Okay, so going back to Revit, let's go ahead and select a wall type. Now you may have to create a wall, a new wall type, a new family type, just depending on how far you've gone along. So at this family type, what we'll be doing is creating a family type for interior 2x4 walls. And then as we assign those segments, what will happen is we'll be able to adjust the height for that family type for whatever our need would be. So looks like I'm waiting for the computer to catch up here. Okay, so as I look at this, I don't have anything for interior walls. What I do want to do is create an interior wall that's 2x4. So I'm just going to use my basic wall type. I'm going to go ahead and go edit type. And once my dialog box comes up, I'm going to duplicate this. And from the duplication, I'm just going to change my description from 2x4 exterior wall and change that to a 2x4. Looks like I got the exterior garage wall. It's not going to matter. I'm just going to call that interior wall. Go ahead and say okay. And so this is where the next thing will become important, because what we'll need to do is to redefine our walls to what an interior wall is going to look like. So we'll again wait for this to process, and once this does, I will go to the edit structure. And once I can edit that structure, what I'm going to do is create a wall. That is a 2x4 wall that has a 1/2 inch layer of drywall on each side. All right, finally got in here. So because I was on the, I created this from the exterior garage wall, I'm going to come up here to my substrate. I'm going to highlight, which was row 2, and I'm going to delete that. So I'm going to have a finish 1 and a finish 2 on each side of the wall. And I'm going to define my category by a material type will be gypsum wallboard. At the rate my computer is working right now, I probably should have refrained from doing that. But just keep working here. Change your finish 1 to gypsum wallboard. We'll want to change that thickness to 1/2 inch because we are working off of a 2x4 wall. Our softwood lumber core boundary or our core of our wall is correct at 3.5 inches. And then our finish on the inside of the wall is also correct at gypsum wallboard and at 1/2 inch. All right, so it looks like I'm getting caught up here now. So I'm going to select gypsum wallboard for my material type, say OK. I'm going to change my thickness type to 1/2 inch, and the rest of my wall should be this OK. So I'm going to go ahead and say OK. So OK one last time. And now I should be ready to start placing walls. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to roughly put these walls in here, and then we'll move them to the right location or the correct location. I'm going to go ahead and move my drawing to my other screen so I can see this as I'm working along. So let me just come in here and I'm just going to start. I guess I need to make sure that my height is correct at 1 foot 1 1/8 inch. I also want to make sure that my constraints are correct. We are building off of the main level floor plan, so that should be our base constraint. There is no offset. We want our top constraint unconnected, and our unconnected height is going to be the 8 foot 1 1/8 of an inch. All right, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to essentially just build or place this wall coming down to this area. And then I'm going to go ahead and place, looks like I've got a wall that's going to come. All right, so that more or less gets that front bedroom done. Looking over here to the wall here, I'm going to separate this wall just a little bit. We come out to this point. This is about where our step's going to be. And I'm going to bring this wall back around here. I'm going to come down to this point. I've got kind of this little pantry area that's happening right there. And I'm going to leave that at that for the moment. I think I've got most of, I've got a few things to add in here still, but we'll come back to that. I'm going to change my height now to the 9 foot 1 1/8, simply because I do want to put this wall that comes in down to this point right here. Okay, what else am I missing here? I don't think a lot. So here's what I want to do is the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some dimensions. And with adding those dimensions, I'm going to start placing walls. So go to annotate, select my align dimension. I want to make sure that I'm on face of core. And I'm going to go back over here and select the outside core. And it looks like when I look at my drawing that my dimension comes to the face of stud on this wall right here. So I'm just going to place that dimension really quickly. And if I'm looking at my drawing, hopefully you guys are looking at the drawing as well, that wall is supposed to be set at 14 foot even. So I'm going to select the wall that will activate my dimension, and I'm going to key in my 14 foot, and it's going to move that wall back. Okay, what other dimensions can I work off of here? It looks like if I go from face of stud to face of stud, at this point, that looks like that was exactly 2 foot 6 inches according to the plan. So I now have that located in a good position. Let's go ahead and take a look at this wall here. And I need to change that to the inside of the wall because that's how my dimension is. So placing that dimension, this wall measures a distance of 9 foot 10 inches. Perfect. I'm going to use my modify tool because what I do know is the plane of this wall and this wall line up. And remember, when you use this, you've got to first click on the wall that you want to line up with, and then the plane that you want to line up with. Now that should actually be in line with this wall here, which it appears that it is. I'm just going to go down there and connect that. And let's go ahead and just connect this point right here. Now there are two different wall heights. If I come over here to my 3D view, let's just make sure that something didn't change there. And it looks like I'm good. So it looks like we've got that step in the wall that is happening at that point, which is what we want. Okay, what else do we need to look at here? So I'm just going through and trying to find all the dimensions that I can. A lot of these will just be used as temporary dimensions, but we'll be able to use that to place our wall. So it looks like coming off of the face of stud this wall to the face of stud on this wall, and then to the outside face of stud right there. I've got a dimension on my drawing, so I can move this wall to what appears to be 6 foot 4.5 inches. And then this wall appears to be 3 foot 6 inches. The other thing I'm looking at really quickly is, where does this wall go? It appears to me, looks like we have a little 6-inch wall that we need to create right here, but until we do that, it appears to me I can use that modify command, because the outside plane of the wall here lines up with the outside plane of the wall right there. Now it looks like I also thrown another dimension here. It appears to me that this wall in relation to that wall is not located correctly, so I'll throw that dimension in. I need to actually delete that dimension. It does matter where you place your dimension, and it appears to me that I caught the end of this wall and not necessarily this wall right there. I'm going to leave the dimension at that point. Now when I click on there, it should activate, and that is a 4 foot 5.5 inch dimension is what I am showing right there. Okay, so another thing really quickly here is, this does not appear to be in the right location. Now this is going to get a little bit more tricky, because I do not have dimensions shown on the drawing, so I'm going to have you guys do it per this video. So let me put in a couple more dimensions. First dimension, I'm going to go from this face of stud to the face of stud right here, and then I'm going to do the same face of stud at that point. Okay, so the first thing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this wall. This wall from the face right here is intended to be a 1 foot difference. Since we've already placed this wall here, we know that that's how that 1 foot should be. And then the depth of this closet is 2 foot 6 inches from face of stud to face of stud. So I'm just going to go ahead and place. That actually doesn't look correct. I'm going to really quickly here see if I can use a measure tool over on my plan, and I'm just going to see if I can get a quick scale, because that just does not look correct. Not uncommon on sets of drawings to have things like architectural dimensions and stuff missing. It's just something we have to deal with. Okay. I'm not getting any results there. I'm just, for right now, I'm going to actually change this to 3 foot. Yeah, how about we go 2 foot 9 inches? I'm just visually looking and trying to see how that looks. So that actually looks fairly correct right now to me. So we may have to come back at a later time and fix that dimension. That's okay. All right, so before we move on to the other side of the house, let's go ahead and create our 2x6 wall that goes in this location right here. So to do that, what I want to do is, once again, go up to my architecture tab, click on wall. Now I don't have a 2x6 interior wall, so I'm just going to build it off of my 2x4. Go to edit type, duplicate, change this to a 2x6 interior wall. One last thing is I need to edit the actual parameters, or the value of the parameters on here. So when I do that, the only difference between the 2x4 wall and the 2x6 I just created is the actual wood stud that I'm using. So we're going to go to 2x6, which measures 5.5 inches wide. Go ahead and say okay, and we should be good. Now I'm just going to start putting this wall segment in here by not attaching it to either side. And the reason for that is you'll notice that I'm not lined up. So what I want to do here is I just want to put that line segment. I'm going to go to my modify tool and align, and I'm going to line that wall up with both sides, and then I'm going to come back here and connect both of them. Now you can see right here that there's something wrong, and I can tell you exactly what that is. My exterior common walls right here is actually on the wrong side. So 5/8 inch drywall is actually on the inside of the house. If you look at this segment right here, you'll see these 2 arrows. That's on the garage side. I take that back. That's actually correct. So I'm seeing something different here. Let me just take a quick look at my type right there. So that's the exterior side. So those arrows I was showing you is always on the exterior side. But for some reason, that drywall is not appearing to line up correctly. You can see that as I zoom in, it just looks like it's a little bit offset. So I'm not sure why that's going to be, but for now, I'm going to go back here and I'm going to line the plane up with this other side. And that actually would have moved this wall a little bit. Out of curiosity, that wall must have been a little offline, because that is actually the correct dimension. Okay. So now that we have that done, let's go ahead and let's come to this other side of the house, and let's go ahead and put in some of these other walls. So I want to, let me actually bring over my drawing once again, if I can. Okay, so what I want to do really quickly here is I want to bring in this 2'8" wing wall. We got another little wing wall right there. And then we got the wall that extends over here. And this is that part of the wall that is actually shorter because of the beam that it sits under. So really quickly, what I want to do here I'm going to come back here and I'm going to select my architecture. I'm going to select my wall. And then this wall is 7 foot, 11 3/4 inches. So once again, I'm just going to put in my wall segments. I'm not going to get too concerned about the location at this point, but I just want to put those into place. Now, if I'm looking at my plan, this dimension from the face of stud is 12 feet to the inside portion of that wall. So let's go back over here and let's just throw in a quick dimension. So from that point to that point, I'm showing as 12 feet. So I'm going to highlight the wall. Then I'm going to move it. I'm going to use my align tool to move these other two wall segments. And if you remember, I'm going to go ahead and put another dimension right here. That wall measured 2 foot 8 inches. So I'm just going to shorten that. Now I need to go back to my plan so I can figure out some of the rest of these. I think what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to come back and put in the other 8 foot 1 1/8 inch walls right here, and then I can establish where this opening is on this little wing wall and just finish building from there. So let me come back here to architecture, select my wall type. I want to make sure that I'm using a 2x4 interior wall. So I can see I already made a mistake on these walls because I made them out of 2x6. That's not a problem because, let me go ahead and hit escape. I'm just going to go ahead and select each of those walls. Do not delete them if you did the same thing as me, but I'm going to select those and I'm going to come back and then I'm just going to simply find my 2x4 interior wall and I'm going to substitute them. Okay, everything was great other than you can see that changing those to a smaller, move the face of the stud in the opposite direction that I would have hoped. So what I'm going to need to do at this point is come back in and again, see if I can do this the right way. I need to put that in there at 12 feet. Once again, I'm just going to use the align tool to line these walls up. Okay. So I guess what you learn from that is don't ever, if you make a mistake and you put a incorrect wall type on there, just simply go back and substitute those walls. Okay, back to my architectural wall, make sure I'm on the 2x4. This time I need to make sure my unconnected height is 8 foot 1 1/8 of an inch. And now I'm ready to start putting in the rest of my walls here. So again, I'm just gonna just get the basic layout done. My actual distances or placements of the wall will not be 100% correct at this point, but that's okay. We will throw in some temporary dimensions and move those into place. So I think I've got the rest of those walls done. So let me go in here. I'm going to try to add a bunch of dimensions right off the bat, and I'm going to try to keep those relative to what or how they're shown on our plan here. So Those walls should be done. Looks like we go from inside to inside to place that wall. That wall should already be correct. And then got a dimension right there that I'm gonna, I think that's all we need for now. So let's start with this wall right here. If I look at my plan, that distance from the outside face of stud to the inside face of stud, that should be 13 foot 9 inches. You'll notice when I did that, I picked up the wrong dimension. So let me go ahead and select this wall. I should have selected this one right here. The difference between those two, you'll notice, is this is actually coming off of the center of the wall to the, looks like the center of the wall. Our dimension was taken from a different area, and so we just need to make sure that we selected the correct one. Okay, this wall, it appears, should be 4 foot 6 inches. And according to my plan, that leaves 5 foot 9 inches left to that point. This dimension should be 3 foot 0 inches. And this dimension right here is 4 feet. I do need one more dimension, and that is because coming off of the inside face of stud to that point, that measures 2 foot 8 inches. So there's no dimension telling me what this actual opening is, but because we know what that wing wall is and what that wing wall is relative to this wall, which we do have the dimension, that opening should be correct. Okay, you'll notice right here, I've got this little corner that's not correct. Use my modify tool to come back here and square that off. And I'm going to go back and get rid of some of these dimensions here. Okay, let's go to our 3D view and just take a quick look as to what we have here. So looking at this, you can see we got this little shorter wall right there. We've got our 8 foot wall. Okay, a couple things I have wrong here that I need to clean up. So if you made the same mistakes, go ahead and clean them up. If not, just take a look at what I'm doing here. So it looks like when I created this 6-inch wall, I did not have that at the right elevation. So I'm going to select the wall right there, and you'll notice in my property windows, I've got my unconnected height at 9 foot. I'm just going to simply change that to 8 feet, apply that, and you'll see that that is now correct. Now, what I made a mistake over here in is these are not 8 foot 1 1/8 inch walls. These are 9 foot 1 1/8 inch walls. So I'm going to go through that same process, but instead of doing the walls individually, I'm going to select the one, holding my control key down. I'm going to select the other 4 or the other 3. There's a total of 4. And now I'm going to come to my unconnected height in the properties window, change that to 9 feet 1 1/8 of an inch, and you'll see now that those are all correct. So this is one reason I like to toggle back and forth to my 3D view, because inevitably I make mistakes on wall heights and different things like that. And from this 3D perspective, you are able to see the different, or you can see and where your mistakes are. So now we got the shorter 7-foot wall. We've got our 9-foot walls. And as far as I can tell, everything's looking good. We still have our fireplace walls, and we're going to just make these a little bit simplified. It's not exactly how they would be built, but what I want to do, at least for what we're doing in this exercise, is to just get some walls in here. So these fireplace walls are, appears to me to be 2x4 walls. And if I'm looking at this, I've got some dimensions that I can get the placement. So I'm going to go back to my architecture, create a wall type. I'm going to use a 2x4. This time, I'm just going to take my unconnected height at 12 foot even. And I'm going to come in here. I'm just going to really roughly build the 3 walls that make up the fireplace. And then I will go back and add some dimensions. And these dimensions are going to be relative to what I'm seeing on the plans here. Again, I'm assuming you've got the plans open and looking at this. So we've got those 2 dimensions that direction, and then it looks like coming off this side of the wall to the face side of the wall here is where that other dimension's pulled from. So let's move this wall first. I've got a dimension of 3 foot 8 inches. And this wall here I've got at 6 foot. That looks correct to me, because if I'm looking at my plan, it appears that these 2 walls line up with each other. So the last thing I need to do is to move this wall here, which I am showing to be 1 foot 10 inches. So we'll go ahead and put those in there, and then I want to just go back to my 3-dimensional view one last time, and you will see that these fireplace walls basically go up. In this particular plan, if you look at what's going on, we actually have a vaulted ceiling in here. What that'll ultimately mean is one of these sides, this side would have to be built on an angle to the ceiling. And if you look at the interior elevation on this plan, which we won't right now, it actually is a gable look, and then we'd have to frame that back down. And we could do just like what we did in the foundation. We could actually select the wall itself, and we could edit the profile to get that pediment or gable type look. Okay, so I will end this video at that point. That's how you create the interior walls. The next video will show you how to start inputting components in the way of doors and windows. So stay tuned for that video.